For a long time, humanity believed they were alone in the universe. They had searched the skies, sent out signals, and traveled across the stars, but no one answered. Their telescopes scanned millions of worlds, yet they found no voices, no civilizations, no lights in the void. The silence was both comforting and terrifying. Comforting because Earth was safe. Terrifying because being alone in the endless galaxy meant there was no one to ask for help if something went wrong. Generations passed, and humanity spread across space. Colonies were built on distant planets. Space stations floated above barren moons, and explorers charted regions far from Earth. Still, the silence continued. Many began to believe the truth was simple. Humans were the only intelligent beings in existence. They were the first, the only, the lonely explorers of the galaxy. But silence can be deceptive. One day, on the edge of known space, a survey ship named Aurora stumbled upon something unexpected. The ship was mapping uncharted systems when its sensors detected faint signals near a dead star. Curious, the crew changed course. The dead star was small, faint, surrounded by drifting rocks and cold emptiness. Nothing should have been there, and yet, there was. Orbiting the star was a station. It was old, scarred, and broken in places, but still standing. Its design was strange. Smooth curves mixed with sharp angles, metal blackened by age. The crew of the Aurora stared in disbelief. No record mentioned such a station. It was not alien. It was not unfamiliar. The design looked human. Captain Elias, a man hardened by decades in space, frowned as he looked at the scans. "This shouldn't exist," he whispered. "We never built anything here." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. If it wasn't theirs, then who built it? And when? They docked cautiously. The station was silent, its corridors frozen and dark. Dust floated in zero gravity, disturbed only by their lights. Symbols on the walls looked like human writing, but older, twisted, as if language itself had changed. Doors creaked open to reveal long-abandoned rooms filled with rusted consoles and shattered glass. Then they found the control chamber. Inside, a terminal still flickered faintly with power. Against all odds, the station had a working core. The engineers patched into it, pulling fragments of data from memory banks that had nearly turned to dust. What they found chilled them to the bone. There were maps of galaxies humanity had never charted. Entire star systems marked with strange names, paths leading far beyond the reach of Earth's explorers. Alongside the maps were logs written in an old human dialect. Some words were familiar, others twisted beyond recognition. But the meaning was clear. This station had been built by humans. Humans who were not from Earth. The crew stood in silence. If these were humans, then where had they come from? Were they survivors of an ancient exodus? Had another branch of humanity left Earth long ago, hidden from history? The captain ordered all files secured, but the deeper they dug, the stranger the records became. There were references to the departure and the chosen path. There were warnings written in cold language. The children of Earth must not interfere. The others will return in their own time. Those words echoed in the chamber, heavy as stone. As the crew returned to the Aurora, a feeling of unease followed them. The galaxy no longer felt empty. If other humans existed, where were they now? Why had they left these warnings? And why had they hidden themselves for so long? On the journey back to the colonies, strange events began. Their scanners picked up faint readings, ships at the edges of their sensors. The shapes were unfamiliar, but somehow human. They vanished before they could be tracked, leaving only ghost signals behind. The crew whispered among themselves. Were they being watched? Had their discovery awakened something that was never meant to be found? When the Aurora finally returned home, the council listened to their report in silence. The data was undeniable. The station was real, the maps were real, and the warnings were real. But many refused to believe. It must be a trick, some argued. A lost experiment, an abandoned project, nothing more. But Captain Elias knew better. He had seen the symbols, the logs, the maps of galaxies beyond imagination. He had felt the weight of those words. The others will return. For the first time in centuries, humanity faced a question they had never dared to ask. What if they were not the only humans in the galaxy? And if the others were still out there? What did they want? The discovery of the old station spread quietly among human colonies, though the council tried to hide it. Officials feared panic, so they called it a derelict experiment and told people not to worry. But secrets are heavy things. They do not stay buried for long. And soon, whispers traveled faster than light. Miners spoke of human ships with strange markings. Traders claimed they saw vessels watching them from a distance. Ships that looked human but carried no flags, no names, no signals. At first, many dismissed the rumors. Space was vast, and sensors often gave false readings. But then the sightings became too frequent. Cargo ships reported being followed through deep space. Colonists swore they saw unknown craft hovering at the edges of their skies before vanishing. Patrol fleets chased shadows, but every time they gave pursuit, the ships melted into the void as if they were never there. The unsettling part was not just their silence. It was how familiar they looked. The designs were close to human ships, but older, sharper, stranger, like reflections of a forgotten past. They carried a sense of purpose, as if they were not drifting aimlessly but studying, watching, measuring. On the colony world of Helios, children playing under the twin suns pointed at the sky one morning. "Look," they cried, "a new ship!" Parents glanced up and froze. A sleek vessel hovered above the atmosphere, silent and dark. It did not fire, did not send a message. It simply stayed there, like an eye in the heavens. Within hours it was gone, leaving only confusion and fear behind. The council met in secret chambers, their voices filled with unease. Some demanded fleets be deployed, others argued for patience. If they are truly human, one elder said, then perhaps they are kin. Perhaps they are lost cousins waiting to return. But others felt dread. If they are kin, one replied, why do they hide? Why do they watch in silence? Why do they not speak? Meanwhile, the crew of the Aurora, still haunted by their discovery, began to notice strange patterns in the data they had brought back. The maps from the old station matched the sightings of these mysterious ships. It was as though the others were retracing their ancient routes, moving from system to system with careful precision. Captain Elias stared at the glowing star charts late into the night. His hand trembled as he traced the paths. "They're not wandering," he whispered. "They're preparing. Step by step, they're coming closer." The tension grew worse when Colonies reported strange signals, low whispers across communication channels, voices that sounded almost human but twisted, broken, layered with static. Some claimed the voices were speaking in old Earth dialects, languages dead for thousands of years. Others swore they heard their own names called back to them, as if the signals knew who was listening. Fear spread like fire. Merchants refused to travel through certain regions. Families packed up and left frontier colonies, retreating closer to Earth. Soldiers stood watch in orbit, their hands shaking on the triggers of their weapons. But the shadow ships never attacked. They never fired a single shot. They only watched, circling the edges of human space like wolves waiting for the right moment. On one lonely outpost near the rim, a distress signal was received. The garrison reported being surrounded by unknown ships. Their commander's voice shook as he broadcast. His last message: they are human, but not human. They move like us, they fly like us, but their eyes are wrong. The signal cut off. When a fleet was sent to investigate, the outpost was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, gone. Every structure, every person, every trace had vanished. The planet itself stood empty, as though no one had ever lived there. The only sign left behind was a single symbol carved into the dust, a circle split in half by a line. It was the same symbol found on the old station. Now the council could no longer deny the truth. The others were real. They were watching. and they were getting closer. Still, arguments filled the chamber. Some called for diplomacy, sending messages into the void begging for contact. Others demanded war, saying no shadow should be allowed near Earth. But no matter what they tried, the others remained silent. Their ships continued to appear, closer each time, their presence heavier, like the weight of a storm pressing down on the galaxy. Among the colonies, fear turned to anger. People whispered that the Council had hidden too much, that humanity was unprepared. Rumors spread that the others had already infiltrated colonies, that they lived among them in disguise, waiting for the right moment to strike. And through it all, Captain Elias carried the words he had read in the station's logs. The others will return in their own time. He realized then that the silence was not peace. It was not hesitation. It was patience. The others had been here all along, hidden, in the dark, waiting for the day when they would reveal themselves. And humanity, blind and arrogant, had walked right into their gaze. The tension had stretched to its breaking point. Humanity could no longer pretend the others were just shadows. Their ships had been seen too often. Their silence had become too heavy, and their strange signals too unsettling. Then, on a quiet, mining colony called Aurealis, the waiting ended. It was early morning when the sky split open. Miners and workers looked up from the frozen cliffs to see a massive vessel descending through the clouds. At first glance, it looked like a human ship, sleek, angular, built for strength. But as the light hit its surface, the details showed something different. Its hull was older, scarred, lined with strange glowing patterns. Its engines made no sound, and it carried no flag of Earth. The colony fell into panic. Families rushed to shelters. Soldiers scrambled to defensive stations. Every gun pointed upward, but no one dared fire. The ship lowered slowly, with the calm of something that knew it could not be stopped. It landed in the center of the colony, its hull hissing as the heat of re-entry cooled against the icy ground. Then the ramp opened. From the darkness, figures stepped out. At first the crowd gasped. They were human. They had 2 arms, 2 legs, faces not so different from their own. But they were taller, broader, their movements sharp and precise. Their uniforms were sleek black, marked with the same split-circle symbol seen on the derelict station. Their eyes gleamed strangely too, bright as if touched by something not entirely natural. The colony commander, nervous but brave, stepped forward. "Identify yourselves," he shouted. "This is human territory. State your purpose." One of the strangers walked closer. His voice, when he spoke, was deep and clear. "We are the others. We were here long before you spread to the stars. We took our own path when Earth was still young. And now we have returned." His words spread through the crowd like ice. People whispered in disbelief. Could it be true? Had another branch of humanity left Earth thousands of years ago? If so, why had they stayed hidden? The stranger continued, his tone calm, almost kind, but his eyes were cold. "Do not fear. We will guide you now. The galaxy is not yours to rule. It was never yours. You are children who have grown wild in our absence. And children must be corrected." A murmur of fear swept through the colonists. Some cried out, some clung to their families, others stared in silent horror. The commander clenched his fists. "We are not children," he said. "We are the people of Earth. We have built colonies, fleets, empires. We will not bow to you." The other only smiled. It was not the smile of a friend. It was the smile of someone who had already decided the outcome. "You will," he said softly. "All of you will. It is only a matter of time, before anyone could act." The sky darkened again. More ships descended, their hulls gleaming with the strange markings of the others. They did not fire. They did not invade. They simply stood there, a wall of silent power, making it clear who now watched over the colony. Then, as suddenly as they had come, they returned to the sky, leaving only a single message burned into the colony's main square. "We have returned. The age of silence is over." News spread faster than light. across every colony, across Earth itself. The story of Borealis became legend overnight. The council argued endlessly. Some believed the others could be allies, stronger cousins who could teach them. Others saw only danger, a shadow preparing to smother everything humanity had built. On the streets of Earth cities, people protested. "We will not kneel," they cried. On the colonies, fear mixed with anger. Farmers, miners, workers, all began to ask the same question. If the others were truly human, why did they feel so alien? Captain Elias, still haunted by the discovery of the derelict station, listened to the reports in silence. He remembered the warning carved into the ancient files. The others will return in their own time. And now they had. But he also knew something the council did not. The logs from the station had contained another phrase, buried deep in damaged data files. It was almost unreadable, but he had pieced it together. It said, "They do not come as brothers. They come as rulers." He whispered the words to himself as he watched the stars outside his ship. Not brothers, rulers. The first encounter was over. The others had shown themselves, and humanity now knew a terrible truth. They had never been alone. But the question was no longer, are we alone? The question was, can we survive what comes next? The galaxy was no longer silent. The others had revealed themselves, and their shadow now stretched across human space. But they did not attack openly. They did not destroy colonies or burn fleets. Instead, they watched. They visited outposts without warning, left messages carved into steel walls, and vanished before soldiers could react. To some, it felt like mercy. To others, it felt like chains slowly tightening around their necks. On Earth, the council argued louder than ever. Some leaders claimed the others were a lost branch of humanity who could guide them to greater heights. If they left Earth long ago, one politician said, then perhaps they know secrets of the stars we cannot imagine. But many feared the truth. They do not come as teachers, Captain Elias warned. They come as masters. His words were ignored. Then the disappearances began. Small colonies on the rim reported people vanishing overnight. Entire towns were left empty. Food still on tables, machines still running, families gone without a trace. At first it was blamed on pirates or accidents. But then evidence surfaced. Ships of the others seen above those colonies hours before the vanishings. No battles, no fire, just silence and absence. The council demanded answers. They sent a message. Into the void, a direct call to the others. Days later, a reply came, not through words, but through images. Every communication screen across the fleet flickered to life. A figure appeared. One of the others, his face calm, his voice steady. "You search for answers," he said. "We will give them. We left Earth because we saw its future. War, chaos, destruction. We chose a different path to reshape ourselves to become more than human. We are the true inheritors of the stars. You are fragments of what we left behind. You are incomplete." The images showed human history. Wars, greed, destruction. The others spoke as if they were disappointed parents. "You spread too far, too fast. You think yourselves powerful, but you are blind children stumbling in the dark. We will not allow this any longer." The message ended, but it left humanity shaken. For the first time, they understood the others did not see themselves as equals. They saw themselves as something greater, something evolved, and they had returned not to unite humanity, but to take control of it. Still, the council hesitated. Some clung to the hope of peace. But Elias was restless. He remembered the final fragments of the old station logs, words that had haunted him since Dawnstar. They will correct. They will erase. They will rule. Determined to uncover the full truth, Elias took his ship, the Aurora, beyond charted space. Guided by the ancient maps from the derelict station, he followed the paths the others once traveled. Days turned into weeks until, finally, he reached a dead system filled with wreckage. Broken ships floated silently, their hulls ancient and rusted. The crew explored cautiously. What they found made their blood run cold. The ships were not alien. They were human. Colonies once built on nearby moons lay in ruins, their cities burned long ago. Records salvaged from broken data cores revealed the truth. These had once been thriving human settlements, older than Earth's colonies, created by the others thousands of years ago. But they had not died from war with aliens. They had been erased by the others themselves. Logs spoke of rebellions. The ordinary humans of those colonies had risen against their masters, and the others had responded with merciless efficiency. They burned entire worlds, erased populations, and silenced any who resisted. It was not guidance they brought. It was rule by fear. As Elias read the records, a horrifying realization struck him. The others were not returning to unite humanity. They were returning to finish what they started. Back on Earth, unrest grew. Colonists rioted against the Council's silence. Soldiers whispered that if the others came, they would not follow orders of surrender. Fear turned into anger and anger into defiance. Then came the final confirmation. A fleet of human patrol ships vanished near the rim. Days later, only one ship returned, half-burned, carrying a single survivor. His eyes were hollow, his voice trembling. "They are coming," he whispered. "Not as friends, not as brothers. They are coming as rulers. They will take everything." Humanity now knew the truth. The others were not saviors. They were conquerors. And they would not stop until Earth itself bowed to them. The hidden truth was clear. The greatest threat to humanity was not an alien empire, not a swarm of monsters, not the emptiness of space. It was humanity itself, twisted, evolved, and returning with the intent to rule. Captain Elias stood before his crew, his voice grim. "They think we are children. They think we are weak. But they have forgotten one thing. We are still human, and we will never bow." The storm was coming. And this time humanity would fight not for survival against aliens, but for freedom against their own kind. The truth could no longer be hidden. Humanity now knew what the others truly were. Lost cousins who had left Earth long ago, reshaped themselves, and returned not as brothers, but as rulers. The Council's chambers, once filled with endless debate, now echoed with silence. Even the most hopeful leaders could no longer deny the reality. The others would not rest until Earth and every colony bent to their will. Across the stars, preparations began. Fleets were recalled from the frontier. Factories thundered with the sound of war machines, and colonies sent volunteers by the thousands. The memory of Dawnstar, of Arclight, of the vanished outposts, burned like fire in their hearts. Humanity had been underestimated before, but now they understood what was at stake. Not survival, but freedom. On Earth, families gathered in crowded cities, staring up at the night sky with fear and hope. Children asked their parents if the others would come to their world. Parents had no answers, only silent prayers. Farmers on distant moons sharpened old tools, ready to fight if soldiers failed. Every human heart beat with the same truth. We are not prey, we are not children, we are not theirs to rule. Meanwhile, the others continued their silent march. Their ships appeared closer each day, their numbers swelling like a storm cloud across the horizon. They did not waste time with speeches now. They did not bother with warnings. Their presence alone was enough. They hovered near colonies, casting shadows that stretched for miles. They cut off trade routes, strangled supply lines, and tested human defenses with cold precision. It was not war yet, but it was the shape of war. Captain Elias, aboard the Aurora, studied every movement of the enemy. The old maps from the derelict station had become his guide, and he could see the pattern forming. "They're circling us," he told his crew. "Step by step they are tightening the net. They want us to fear them before the first shot is fired." But fear was not what he saw in the faces of his crew. It was resolve, These were miners, farmers, engineers, ordinary people who had chosen to stand against the impossible. Their eyes burned with the same fire that had carried humanity through wars, plagues, disasters, and the unforgiving nature of Earth itself. Messages spread across the colonies, words that lit sparks in the darkness. If they want war, they will have it. If they want rulers, they will find rebels. The council finally made its decision. For the first time in history, every human colony, every fleet, every soldier would stand together under one command. Not for conquest, not for glory, but for survival. The banners of Earth and her colonies were raised side by side, and the galaxy trembled at the sound of drums of war echoing across the stars. Then came the first strike. It was not by humans. It was by the others. A fleet of their ships descended on a frontier colony called Haldren, wiping out its defenses in minutes. They did not destroy the colony. They took it. Every family, every soldier, every child was captured, transported to their dark ships, vanishing into the void. The message was clear: surrender and live under their rule. Resist and disappear, but humanity did not bow. The loss of Haldren ignited fury. Protests turned to armies. Anger turned to steel. The people of Earth sent a single message back to the others, broadcast across every frequency: we are not yours to command. If you come for us, you will find more than resistance. You will find war. The skies of Earth filled with warships, their black hulls gleaming with new weapons forged from stolen alien tech, from hard-earned human ingenuity. The colonies built massive defense grids, mining asteroids into cannons that could strike across systems. Every hand, every mind, every heart was turned toward one purpose: defiance. And still, the others came. Their fleets stretched like endless shadows, their technology far beyond anything humanity had ever faced. They had power, they had numbers, they had experience. But humanity had something else, something the others had forgotten in their long years away from Earth. They had the will to fight, the will to endure, the will to win. As the first great battle drew near, Captain Elias stood on the bridge of the Aurora, watching the stars ignite with enemy ships. His voice was calm, but his words carried across the fleet. "They think we are children," he said. "They think we will kneel. They have forgotten who we are. We are human. We are Earth, and we will not be ruled." The comms fell silent. Then, one by one, voices answered him: soldiers, miners, captains, farmers. Their voices joined into a single roar that filled the channels of space. The others had returned. But this time, humanity was ready. The coming war would not decide who ruled the galaxy. It would decide who survived it.